Everyone, this is a special meeting, October 30th of the Goffstown Select Board. Please join me in pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'm just going to call it out just to say, is there anybody here from public? Like, nobody's here? Okay. Tax rate for time.
Yes, in front of you, you have the preliminary tax rate. This takes into account the revised revenues from both the town and the school, and work service credits, overlay, and everything. So this is really what we believe is the tax rate for the select board to approve. On the municipal side, we're looking at a tax rate of $6.89. That is a 39-cent increase from last year. Fortunately, the revised revenues came in a little bit higher than we had anticipated. And then you have the other rates there as well. So we would be looking for the board to approve this so we can lock it in and begin the process of creating the tax warrant. As you'll see on page 4, the fund balance retention. The current amount retained is just over 12%. The board's fund balance policy requires a minimum amount retained of 12% with a target of 16%. This, just so we're all clear, this amount retained is really a snapshot in time. This is what we had for fund balance at the end of 2024. Does not necessarily take into account what we have on hand for cash, because there are accounts receivable. So there are some of our property tax that we haven't collected that is counted in that as a revenue, even though it hasn't been realized, and many times it may not. We have to go into tax deed for some of those properties. So it's not that we have $7.5 million on hand at that time. And also, when that's at the end of year 2024, it's probably closer to $5.5 million at the end of 2024. But just remember that the town has to continue paying out the school's portion of the taxes until we start collecting bills again in June.
Don't we collect some before June?
No, we collect revenues. So we
that's what I'm saying.
do collect motor vehicle revenues, so we do have those on account,
Right,
on hand. But so yeah, there's always a portion that we have uncollected property taxes. That is not only the town's portion, but it's also the county and the school. But we have to pay out to those two entities.
What does that 1% represent as far as dollars?
What's that?
That we got 12.01% retained amount.
What is
0.1.
that 0.1% account to?
Yeah.
Danielle, can you do that calculation quick for us?
0.01% is what you're looking for?
I was just curious to say if you want to leave it at 12.
Yeah.
Yep, I can calculate it for you. Just to clarify, that's DRA rounding, their form only goes 2 digits. The current percentage is actually 12.000017.
Oh.
So they bring that right up to a 0.01. But I can give you that number real quick if you want to know what 0.01 would be.
And last year's rate was $6.50.
Yes.
Well, actually, 2044. How much did we use? I mean, it's 1886. How much fund balance did we use last year?
So the board did not use any fund balance at tax rate setting. You did not use any to reduce the tax rate. There was $250,000 that went into the capital reserve fund in 2023. So that had already been taken out of that.
So it's about $500,000, $500,000. But we do have suggestions this evening for use of fund balance to offset budgetary items. It's a very limited amount of money to work with, and as I said, when we actually do the calculation, the amount retained according to DRA is showing us 12.0008. It's the first digit.
Okay, let's get into it then. You tell me what you guys have working on.
Well, we need,
Need a motion on that?
Well,
We
yeah, can we come back to this?
yeah,
Because we may want to do something or,
yes, we can come back to that,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Can I ask a question, a general question? That amount retained, does that affect our bond rate, town bond rating or anything like that?
It can, yes. If we ever needed to go out to bond or get TANs, they're gonna look at what we have in our fund balance calculations. It is, as Derek said, a snapshot in time, but it does impact our ability to be bonded.
Okay, but we're not below the recommended, there was a range, right? And I think we're
There is a range.
in the
We are
middle.
within the range. We're below the recommended under the national GFOA standard, but we're within the state's requirements.
So what's the national standard?
16.67.
Right,
Yeah.
thanks.
is that based on the percentage that they have?
That is the percentage, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, 16.
There's a certain percentage that they recommend of the total budget, right? That they recommend that you're retained, and that could go up and down depending on the budget, right?
Yeah, and the big thing about the percentages, when they say of the total budget, it's not just our budget, it's all those budgets that we have to collect for all of the entities, including the state education, county, school, and town. So collectively, that percentage of our single unassigned fund balance is getting compared to a combined that's over $65 million. So any time that we get to the end of the year and there's a small change in fund balance, it may be, 500,000 or something, it's immediately kind of swallowed up by that percentage of those other entities as well.
So the fund balance would go up on a regular basis. Fund balance recommendation would go up on a regular basis because your budgets go up.
Right, that's why they recommend it as a percentage. That 16.67% works out to about 2 months worth of operating. And when you consider the town's operating is only just one minor portion of it. The school's operating expenses vary from, 4 to 5 million a month that we transfer over to them.
Let's get into the budget part.
Okay. So what we prepared for you this evening is you have a presentation in front of you. You also have a revised next year budget report that had a handful of corrections that was presented. But if I can start with the presentation. And what I'd like to start on page 2 is your 2024 municipal tax effort. Again, because the board hasn't voted on a tax rate, we'll do that later this evening. But right now, we're looking at a net required local tax effort of $8.9 million on the town side. That takes into account the total approved appropriations at town meeting minus our revised revenues. Those two numbers there include the sewer enterprise fund. The sewer enterprise fund has no impact on the amount of taxes that we need to collect, but that total appropriation and revenues are included in those two numbers. Also, our veterans tax credits, they're referred to as war service credits, and as well as overlay. Overlay is an account that we maintain when we have to pay out abatements. It comes out of that account.
Is that based on a percentage?
Normally, when we know, what we typically do is when we're doing budgeting, we figure that it'll be $10,000. A lot of times that overlay is used to round the DRA form to a whole penny, especially when there's so much rounding and using quite a bit. It's also, if we know, I think in the year, going into 2024, we anticipated that we may have additional abatements coming out of the 2023 reval, so we may carry a little additional overlay. Normally, when we do the budgeting process, we just put $10,000 in for a placeholder. So on your next page, on page 3, this really is just looking at the general fund budget In the left column, you have the default budget, and in the right column, you have the department head budget. Right now, you have a difference of about $3.8 million between the general fund default budget and the proposed budget that you have. Now, there is also a difference on the revenue. There are two CIP projects that have offsetting revenue. One being the Montalona Culvert project that is 90% grant funded. So that has much less of an impact than what you'll see on the appropriation side. And then also the tennis and pickleball courts from Parks and Rec. The Parks and Rec commissioners voted to have $150,000 from the revolving fund go towards that project. So those really are your two differences in your revenues. We have two special articles, one being $350,000 recommended to go into the Fire Apparatus Capital Reserve Fund, and a $1 placeholder for the collective bargaining agreement with the professional firefighters of Goffstown. As you can see here, on both sides, whether you're in default or department head, the Sewer Enterprise Fund budget zeroes out, so that does not have any impact. So that bottom, that is your estimated local tax effort. Our default budget, we estimate that the local tax effort would be just over $19.1 million, which would be about just over a 1% increase from what we are going to collect this fall. Your proposed budget from the department heads has an estimated local tax effort of $22.3 million, and that would be an 18% increase over what we're doing in 2024. So those are that's a pretty significant difference between the two. Are there any questions on that? Okay, the next one, I think Vice Chairwoman Boyer asked for a little bit of a breakdown of some of our costs and where our costs are. So what we've done is, this is really just your default general fund budget and your proposed general fund budget, and we broke out the appropriations. Debt service is the same in both. CIP, you can see there is a significant difference. It's just over a $2.2 million difference between the default and the proposed budget. However, we would not collect 2.2 additional taxes just for CIP, because you do have that offsetting revenue that's shown on the right side. Special articles will show for both. And then what we did is we broke the department's budget down into wages, New Hampshire retirement, insurance, that would be our health, dental, as well as our workers' comp, unemployment, life, long-term, short-term, and property insurance as well. Operating costs, consulting services, those would include our banking services, our auditing services, our legal services, as well as Parks and Rec referees are in there, because that's a consulting service, or under a consulting service line. Also, we have line striping, tree cutting, brush grinding, street sweeping, a lot of those as well. IT and telecom, this is not the cost of IT and telecom. These are really those hardware and software lines, as well as telephones, internet, mobile communication. And we've also grouped in some of the radio repairs to that. And then solid waste removal, you can see the difference there in the increase. And this is general fund revenues other than those two CIP lines, so you see where those match up. And that's just a little bit further of a breakdown. So if the board wanted to focus your efforts on a particular portion of the budget, we could help you focus on that.
I just got a question. I can't figure out why the department head budget wages are lower than the default budget wages.
So on a percentage basis, so the actual dollar figure for the proposed budget is higher. But on a percentage basis, we're on the next page, the wages are a smaller percentage, mostly because our CIP costs have the proposed CIP projects that come out of the CIP matrix are a significant, they're a larger portion of the pie, so it really reduces down the share. It's not on a dollar basis, but more on a percentage basis, where the department heads are proposing a little bit more on CIP projects on a percentage basis.
Thank you.
So the department heads went through all of this information, and we do have some recommendations on page 6 of reductions that the board could consider to the proposed budget to get a lower estimated tax effort. And I'll go through these line by line. The first being in town hall, you do have a merit pay line that is budgeted at $15,000. The board could reduce that down to $1 and use unexpended funds if they felt at the end of next year that you had people that were worthy of receiving merit pay. In mobile communications, we had budgeted for new mobile devices for our patrol officers, and that was budgeted at 12 months. We would not enact that until a budget was adopted and put in, so we could delay that and reduce that by a quarter, really, those first 3 months. So there's a $6,000 reduction there. The next two are reductions to EDC and conservation milfoil. EDC has used funds in the past to have consultants come in and work with UNH Cooperative Extension. They are just finishing up a project. And I would say that if they were to come in the middle of next year and perhaps have another project in mind, perhaps we could help them locate some grant funds if the $2,500 was not sufficient, or we could look at other operating savings that we might have and help them out from there. Also with milfoil, the milfoil costs that conservation has been reimbursing Nemaski Lake Association and Glen Lake has been reduced over the last 4 years due to the efforts of those two lake associations. So the recommendation was you could reduce that by a bit while also still having that service. It'll also give us a chance to see if the drawdown of Nemaski Lake for a more significant portion of time and a more significant, if that impacts the milfoil at all in that area. Public Works, you have two items, or the first one is fleet towing expense. The department head, Adam, basically said we could match default. A reduction to travel expenses in fleet because there is no planned travel in 2025. The next one, Public Works solid waste operations. This again is that rental expense for the lift to clear the top off of the trailers. Zeb believes that he could fabricate a snow clearing machine in-house. So that's another option there. Rick has offered contracted services, a slight reduction to the referees portion. And then on park operation and programs, he would propose a slight reduction there to match default. And then the next three are 3 CIP projects. The first being the server refresh project. As you recall, the board, when you allocated your funds for the 2024 from default to operating budget, you did allocate $150,000 for this project and maintained $150,000. So we have this project out to bid, and I believe that you could fund this entire project out of 2024. I know that members of the board have expressed concerns about using personnel funds for this, but if they really need to, we could potentially look at other savings and operating lines as well as invest NH funds if need be. Police chief has offered to remove the police station parking lot. We are finishing up that RFP for facilities need study of what they actually need. So at some point in the near future, the hope is to either rebuild or do an add-on or replace that police station.
So are you saying you could be putting good money into bad if you're not going to?
Potentially. I think it was definitely a good project, but when you're looking at over a $3 million difference between default and operating, some of these good projects kind of fly by the side. The fire chief also would propose reducing his facility repairs line in CIP. There's much discussion about this Monday night. He would propose to retain the Station 2 HVAC study simply because there may be some energy efficiencies there that lead to savings further on down the road, but it would reduce that by $100,000. And then the Fire Apparatus Capital Reserve Fund, we would propose that the board fund that from unassigned fund balance, so it would have no additional tax impact on property taxpayers. Again, that unassigned fund balance is from taxes that are collected that are not used, but it's also revenues that we collect over what we're anticipating. So you could fund that. This past spring, was one of the first times where we actually proposed funding the capital reserve fund from taxation, and it failed. So it may benefit the capital reserve fund to fund it from unassigned fund balance.
Can I ask a question on that?
Yes.
When it failed, doesn't that say we couldn't do that?
It said it for 2024 that we could not make a deposit into the capital reserve fund.
But you're saying taking funds from 2024 and,
No, I'm saying from unassigned fund balance, which every year town meeting has the ability to be asked that question. Even if it failed in the past, even if a past town meeting had voted to not raise taxation in that year, you can still go back to a future town meeting. Town meeting does not bind a future town meeting. The only thing it does is when there's multi-year contracts.
so you're saying the 350, you're talking about for the 25 budget,
Yes,
that you would do it, you would say it's coming out of unassigned fund balance on the ballot?
yes.
Okay.
Yep.
I thought you meant you were, okay.
Yep. And then the last item, this last item is not actually a reduction in what we would collect for taxes. So that recommended change, you'll see in that last item, has a $0 impact. This would not impact what we would have to potentially collect in taxes, but Adam does have an additional $200,000 in the road plan this year. What we've done in the past when we've had an increase to that is we put that out to a separate article and basically ask the voters on what they want to do. So that could be a possibility where you move that $200,000 out to a special article and ask the voters if they want to fund it from taxation.
So you would keep it at the 1.6?
In the operating budget, we would keep it at the 1.6. We would move 200,000 to a special
article.
Yes. So all in total, if the board were to move forward with those changes, that would reduce the proposed budget, the appropriation, by $940,000. And that's shown on your next page. Really, this is, I think this is from slide 4. However, on the right side, what you're seeing is those changes. So instead of an 18.2% increase on estimated local tax effort, it drops it down by about 5 points. You're at 13.3%. There's still work to be done, but I think it's a good faith effort by the department heads to kind of start that process. And then on the final page, really just looking at what is the select board's goal to pass along to the budget committee. What I've created is a little chart saying this is your estimated tax effort with a percentage on the left and kind of what you need to get to for general fund appropriation.
Derek, do you happen to have what the proposed 2024 number was?
The proposed general fund budget.
Yeah.
So it's on this one that was on, and it's on the very last page. Before, this does not include the department head's recommended changes, but the department head budget is at $29,241,796. So it's on page 25, the second column in from the right. And you see the default right next to it.
25 or 24?
25,
25.
page 25 of 25, should be the very last page.
I must be looking at something different.
In this, oh yeah, you're on there.
Mine says 24, 24. Different.
I think that's the one that we used on Monday night.
Right, so you're going, okay, we're going back to the older one. I don't think I put that one in here.
This is the new one that we passed out this evening. It should be sitting in front of you.
I got 25 or 25 here.
Okay.
I was looking at the one from before. So that's a 13%, oh, you really can't do that.
So what you see on page 25 of 25, that would actually, we would estimate that that would be an 18.2% increase in the tax effort.
But this program, the one you gave us tonight's
So,
approximately 13%.
correct, if you took into account all the recommended reductions recommended by department heads and moving the capital reserve fund to be funded from unassigned fund balance, then you're closer to 13%, which is still a significant increase, but I think it's at least a starting point.
Hmm, 13% increase.
Danielle has a question, can she come up?
Come right up, Danielle, you should be sitting up here anyway. I don't know why you sit back there.
You don't.
Especially when we're working on the budget and stuff, I mean,
You don't know why she sits back there?
just trying to hide is what it is, I get it.
Well, I was just gonna clarify, I thought I heard Selectwoman Boyer ask on what the 2024 department recommended was, the budget that failed. So the deliberative session resulted in a budget that was 27.8 million. And that failed, so we ended up with 25 in our default.
What was it, 27.8?
27.89, so almost 27.9 million. And so when you're seeing the change between this year's 2024 budget that we're collecting taxes on and the department head's proposed of 29, you kind of have 2 million that should have been last year had it been passed, and then 2 million this year. So it's kind of compounded now.
That's why I was asking that, because I foresee having the conversation at budget of what our default was, but still mentioning what the proposed had been, because the number between last year's proposed versus this year's proposed is obviously a lot different. And I want to highlight that middle part that is showing a greater increase on paper, but is because it was pushed off from last year. And I want to just be able to talk about that.
So as your question is, what was the budget committee's proposed budget? Isn't that what we're really?
That was a different number, that was
That's
30
the
million.
number, that would be an important number, especially when you're talking with the budget committee, that
Yeah.
last year you approved this amount of money. You know, you thought we needed this amount of money. So, and then for them to come back and say, well, you know, it's gonna be less, would be kind of difficult for them to stand up to, I would think.
You said that proposed budget was 30?
The one thing, this is a tough one to do off the cuff, because a lot of times the budget forms have both the sewer enterprise fund and the 2024 budget still had EMS in there, where EMS is now a revolving fund, it's not a special revenue fund.
Yeah,
I'm sure that we can, as we get ready to present
we can.
to the budget committee, we can make sure that we're comparing apples to apples, really just focus on the general fund.
Yeah.
But if you do look at the bottom of page 25 of 25, you can at least see what we got for default.
The default is a 25-4.
Yes.
25 to 4, yeah.
Yeah.
25,240, is that what you said?
In 24, 25 is the default 25-4 on the far right.
Yep.
Yeah, and the budget committee, just the general fund last year was $26.6 million. Looking at the budget projection that's in our financial software, it was 26.6. So again, that's about halfway, almost between the two.
What was the 2024 Budget Committee approved number again? Yeah,
$26,673,673.
okay, close enough, yeah.
That's the budget committee's approved budget, right? Yeah.
Recommended.
Recommended. budget.
Recommended, but yep, 26,673, 673.
Thank you.
And this year, we're coming in, we're hitting them with 29.241.
That's where we ended the night, Monday night, yes, that's
And then we're
where
backing out.
the department heads have recommended backing out about 940,000 from that.
So is that 26 number and our 29 number, is that apples to apples?
Yes.
So Danielle, if we took the current number and we minus what the department heads want, what would that number be?
You're saying the actual
If we
appropriation
do
for
what's
25?
recommended by, what's
Yeah.
recommended by the department head.
Backing out those numbers, yeah.
Yeah, backing out 900.
Yeah,
So the one thing I do want to caution you about is at the bottom of page 25, that does not include your special articles. So there are 2 special articles, so that doesn't include those. That's those would be above and beyond.
that's plus special articles.
Yes, this is just your
General.
This is just your general fund operating budget, not all appropriation articles.
So, actually, there's 3 special articles if we go with the recommendations. There's 200,000 for DPW, 350,000 for fire, and then we still have the special article for fire personnel. So it's actually 3.
It would be, the 200,000 lives in this document right now,
Sorry.
because it's, right now it's at the 1.8, but yes, yep, yeah, it would be 3 special articles that are recommended.
So if you were to adopt the 940,000 that this was recommended this evening, it would bring that number on the last page, page 25, down to 28,301,010.
28,301,010.
28,301,010, yep.
Okay, got it.
And then special articles are on minimum of 550 plus.
Well, it's 200 is already in here.
In that 28,301?
Right, yep,
Okay.
because we hadn't moved it
We
out
hadn't
because we
moved
weren't
it.
sure
Alright,
of the
so-
board's pleasure. And then the 350, we would be recommending from unassigned fund balance.
So that's not even going to
So
affect.
it wouldn't be a taxation component. It's part of the total appropriations though.
Okay. So the only thing you're adding is the 200,000 and the contract to a tax impact. That-
Will the tennis courts be on a special article?
So right now, the tennis courts are still in the operating budget. They're on page 24 of 25. No, I'm sorry, they're on 25 of 25, under the Parks and Rec, one of the very last lines, the $470,000. So there's the 470 there, and then on the revenue side, there's $150,000 from the revolving fund. So that is still within the operating budget.
And that's for pickleball courts.
It's to repair the tennis courts and also construct pickleball courts.
How many pickleball courts, Rick?
4.
4?
Seems like a lot of money.
I think that one should be
Huh?
a vote. I think that one should be a special article.
Think so?
The pickleball courts?
I don't know if that's a good or bad strategy, but
The strategy, the problem with that is, it's just like the pool. If people don't use it, they say no.
I know.
Yeah. We don't need pickleball courts.
Yeah, well, I'm not gonna use a pickleball court, but I wanna vote yes on that. And that's exactly what happened with, the pool stuff.
Yeah,
It's,
well, it's always a
they
danger.
don't
when you
use
pull
it, they don't want it. they
That's
don't-
always a danger when you pull something out and do a special article. Yeah.
The select board still has time to decide on the special articles. So if it's something that you choose to leave in the budget and then the budget committee were to say, cut it, you could then put it as a special article to see if the voters want it.
I'd be comfortable with that.
Put it in the
Yeah.
hands of the voters, yeah.
I mean,
Yep.
kind of takes the liability away from us.
There's been discussion over the years that you take out any big expenditures and put them out to special articles and let people vote on them. That way, and they were talking, some towns do tons of special articles, they have 20 special articles. I don't like that myself, but,
But that way it's the will of the people.
no, I get it, but
I mean,
I do have some questions about the cell phones. Can I ask
Go
Eric
for it.
those
Yeah.
questions? Eric, do you mind?
this is pretty much a discussion type of thing instead of,
So I saw, let me find it now.
What page is it gonna be on,
I
Kevin?
don't know, that's what I'm trying to figure out. Page 6 in the presentation.
the new
So-
or the old one?
In the presentation, not the budget
Okay,
lines.
okay.
So Chief, under the IT, I see, so it's a reduction to reduce it to 9 months to start on April 1st. Can you just talk me through, so the mobile devices themselves?
Yes.
Officers are currently using their personal devices.
Yes.
What is the reasoning behind doing this, like purchasing devices versus a stipend, and/or can we offer them one or the other?
Sure. So, to answer your question, because I'm trying to be short with it, but we can run into a pretty delicate situation when they're using their personal devices for work-related stuff that potentially could get into discovery and a few other things when it comes to court. We've been kind of getting away with it in the sense that some of the stuff we're using now for our body cameras, they have the option to use their personal devices to interact with their body cams, or they have to come back to the station and do the work
Yeah.
internally. If we offer them the stipend, you're still giving them their personal device. On a side note, we're finding that some of the technology we're using that can be put on their personal devices should not be on their personal devices. IT thinks that's a security risk, and currently it's causing an inefficiency situation where IT is blocking certain things for them because they're worried about them being loaded on their personal devices. We're finding that officers are using personal devices to make phone calls when they're not coming to the station. So there's a couple different theories of why we're, not theories, reasons why we're going that way. I don't know if you want to hear all about it or just kind of.
No, I was curious if it was more to drive policy or, what the reasoning was. I just want to make sure, number one, I can speak to it, the importance of it, and then also,
Yeah, so
The time
some of the other key points you want to add is We don't want our officers using their personal cell phones to take pictures of evidence or accidents. We do provide them with cameras. We are finding that we're looking at a new technology to house our evidence with our body cameras. We have that online. So we're looking at taking these newer devices and providing them everything IT can provide them with, plus access to where our body cameras are stored, which is evidence.com. And they can use those department-issued devices to not only make phone calls, but they can also take pictures of evidence with the department-issued cell phone and then upload it to their case file on evidence.com. So there's a couple different new technologies that we're looking at that we've been talking about for the last couple of years, and I've worked with IT to verify this will work for us. And obviously we'll have our, if it goes through, we'll have our kind of growing pains, but that's where we're trying to go and kind of get people off their,
Be more efficient.
yes.
So
and
they'd be
off-
carrying
and off their personal phones.
They'll be carrying two phones with them,
Yeah.
personal phone and then,
Yeah, and we talked about just doing like a cruiser car, cruiser phone, but the way we log into all of our apps and different, it's all specific to the user. So we talked with IT and they found that instead of sharing devices or logging out, logging in, and having your multi-factor authenticators, it'd be easier just to give every officer, sworn member, a device that's issued to you, like your firearm, your taser, your body cam, and that's your assigned phone that you use during your official work business. Whether they want to leave it at the station or bring it home, that's on them, but certainly it's for work.
I think the rules need to be set up on how it's used, but that comes once you have them.
There will be. I can tell you that we've had situations where we're using digital roll call, where our officers are seeing people on the street. I've seen this twice now. Wanted people, they've looked back at our internal system and seen the people, and they're using their personal phones to see this and be able to identify that person. We're really trying to get away from that. So it's helping us in the field to be more efficient, but we gotta be careful with using our personal phones.
Got it. Thank you.
You all set?
Sorry.
Thank you.
One more question, Eric. You're dead set on Tahoe's, huh?
Nope, I'm not.
Oh. I mean, it's almost $20,000 difference in
Yes.
vehicle.
I'm not dead set on it. It is something that we were looking to try out and want. I am willing to, if the board's desire, to relook at that. We don't have a state bid on Chevys. I know that we have an unofficial state bid on Ford, which is about $45,000, roughly anywhere between, like I told you the other night, 15 to 20 grand for the outfittings. So if you're thinking we're about 60 to 65 for the Fords fully done, which is almost a $40,000 savings if we don't do Tahoes, definitely that we could do that if we can keep 3 cruisers. We can look into that, but I'm not dead set on it.
Okay.
We can work that out.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Is there going to be a state bid to come out on those, Chief? Don't know.
They're supposed to be. I just haven't seen it. I don't. And if it's not, then we'd have to go through the purchase policy to find out what the best deal is for us. So,
Okay, thank you.
yes.
So we could keep that on a list for future if we need to remove anything else.
Well, if we take it to bare bones now, if we get default, where do you go from there?
Well, that's what, yeah, that's what I said, future.
So, let's get back to the project upstairs and the computer hardware or servers that we need to
The refresh?
update. Yeah.
Okay.
The,
The refresh, yeah.
the new servers you needed, right? Which is, Derek and I chatted just a few minutes ago before we started the meeting, and I said there's needs and wants, or needs and efficiency happening, and you indicated to me that you would give up something, to give up upstairs just to get make sure we got the service.
The servers have to be done. The servers are past their useful life. They are nearing, they're nearing 100% full. They're almost full. We do have that one out for bid. That one needs to be done. The board allocated $150,000 in the 2024 budget for that project.
Which
We're
project?
for the server refresh.
Server refresh.
This is currently out for bid.
Right.
150,000, we're hopeful that that would pay for 50% of it. It may not, but we're hopeful that it would pay for 50% of it. The other 50% we discussed Monday night. Well, we didn't, yeah, it wasn't this past, it was on the 21st we discussed it. It could come from other savings in this budget. The board also has the ability to reallocate Invest NH MPU grant funds. I had requested $200,000 be allocated for the Revenue Collection Office. I still think that's an efficiency that can be gained at Town Hall, but if that efficiency in the study, if that's not available to be done at this time, we can still operate upstairs. The servers are getting to the point where
Can't operate.
we're gonna have issues.
What would the other half of that figure be for the,
For the servers?
yes?
We're hoping that it's another 150,000. We believe I've budgeted 300,000. Last year, we budgeted 270,000
Yep.
in the proposed budget for that project. So,
But we're still 150 short?
in the 2024 budget, yes. Still 150 short.
So if you use the invest money, let's go back to what savings do we have with the personnel that you did not hire?
I
About
removed
70,000, wasn't it?
for the part-time, it
What
was
was it?
only 25 hours a week, so there was no retirement, there were no benefits. So that one I think was probably closer to 50,000 with all the, so that one, I pulled that out of the budget.
The 50,000, the full-timer,
The part-timer.
the part-timer, which is, how much you said, 25 or 50
It
or,
was a 25-hour-a-week position.
so,
And it was about 55,000.
so that's
So
55,000.
that's not in your default, that's not in your budget.
For 20.
For 25. For
I think he's
25.
asking about.
Oh, what do we have in
24.
I'm trying to,
This
I'm
year's savings.
figuring savings that you've saved by not hiring.
Yeah, so that one is 50, yeah, that one would be about 55. And then we have either some various lines, or we can look at our operating lines to see.
But
what we
wasn't
have.
there a second person upstairs,
Yes, so we
Code
have
enforcement?
the code enforcement building.
which we
inspector.
didn't hire?
Correct, we haven't started interviews for that
Okay,
position.
but that was budgeted at 24.
That, yep,
Okay, how much is that person?
that's probably closer to 100,000, because that was a fully benefited position. So between those two positions there,
We're talking $150,000.
yes.
And that's where you would get the money for the service.
For the servers, that's what we discussed on the 21st, yes.
And then you would still use the invest for upstairs, for,
Correct, correct. That was my hopes to proceed in that manner.
okay, I was just trying to get all the, what you had set up for financing on this.
Yep.
I'm still not, I'm not, I don't like the idea of telling people you're gonna, or telling us and the budget committee you need this money to hire people, then don't hire them and use the money for something else. Like, that sticks in my craw for some reason, I don't know, but that's, I mean, the money's there now because we didn't hire anybody and there's only 2 months left.
Yeah, and we did also, when we did the transfer, the compensation study transfer, that was budgeted with positions that we had anticipated being filled. So some of the funds got moved to wages. Additionally, because we wanted to still do that implementation, looking back at the 2024 budget that had been proposed, this project was $280,000.
Okay, but when we, in July, when we made all the changes,
In March, yep.
right, were those two positions budgeted at 55 and 100? Was they still in there, or did we
Yes.
use that money? Did we use those funds then to make adjustments?
No, nope, they were still there. They were actually proposed a little bit higher because we were anticipating filling them at the new matrix level.
That answers my question on that. So the question is, do we go ahead with the proposal of using the unhired personnel's funds, which is approximately 150, 160,000 benefits and everything, and 200,000 in invest in order to do the two projects, which would be the servers and upstairs, which we still don't know how much upstairs is going to be yet, because you've got an RFP out, right?
Correct.
And you have 150,000 in the default budget as well. So if you're looking at both projects, that would bring you to a combined total of 300,000 for the IT and then 200,000 through the Invest in H for the upstairs project, because the RFPs are out, both out.
Jim's got a sly look
Well,
on
just the two positions that are vacant, are they imperative that we fund
Yes.
them now? I mean, that,
Do we need them?
So zoning enforcement has been a
Yeah.
combination that I've been helping, Jack has been helping, Joanne and Patty have been doing. So that's really 4 people kind of wearing that hat. Our building inspector has been doing a wonderful job getting all of his inspections and plan review done. However, we have an MOU, memorandum of understanding with both Ware and New Boston that they would provide coverage on vacations. Both of those communities only have part-time inspectors, and that has been a revolving position for both of them. So when Jack goes on vacation, fortunately, he plans well enough in ahead of time, and he works with the builders and just, hey, I'm gonna be on vacation this week, it's gonna be very difficult to get inspections, but have been times where people looking for building or electrical or plumbing inspections have been delayed by a few days as we've worked with other communities to bring somebody in. So the idea was to bring in another code enforcement, not just limited to zoning, but to also building as well, so that we would have coverage all the time and better serve those people with active permits.
We need the position.
Yeah, we did.
We need the position. There's no doubt about it. You know, and we should have had it this year. I understand it's hard to find people, but we need the position because people are waiting, and we see code enforcement issues all the time that Jack doesn't even get a chance to get there. And I know you try to help, and Patty and Joanne, but they're in the office, they're not on the road.
Is it possible, have we ever done anything where we posted a full-time position but split 50% with another community? Like, would that be more advantageous to try to post it full-time and split it with?
It is a full-time position. The
Budget.
inspector is a full-time. The part-time position
Right.
was an additional clerk in building and assessing.
Right.
Talking with Jody, I feel that Jody in that department can handle the workload of both. She's worked out great in there. So
And that's why, as Eric said, that
that's why I
half-time
reduced
position
that.
was reduced for 2025.
The position
Okay.
used to be
No,
two.
I got it,
It used to be two.
No, I know that. I was talking about, never mind, I got
Have
it.
we actively been pursuing to fill that position, and they're just not
The part-time?
part-time or full-time?
So the full-time, yes, we've been reviewing and we're going to be interviewing for the building or the code enforcement one, yes. We are going to be interviewing for
That's
that
an
one.
important one.
The part-time one, we have not been actively pursuing as we were preparing for budgets.
Yeah, no, I understand.
So, subject at hand is you have those funds that didn't get used, and we have invest funds, and we have funds that were already budgeted. Would that be accurate? And would cover the two projects that here in Town Hall?
Yeah.
Subject to the bids that come in.
Final
Yeah.
bids, yeah.
And if the bids comes in unreasonable, then what do? We have to spend that money before the end of the year, right?
The Invest New Hampshire ones, yes, absolutely.
So
Or
what's
we
your-
have to return those to Treasury. The fortunate thing is that was under a revenue loss. If we get to a point where we come to the last meeting and we don't have identified projects, I am certain that DPW has some projects that we can put it towards.
He's back there with his hands on, yeah, I can do it.
I think Adam is kind of on those, he has said, he didn't put a request in, but always has reminded us that rather than giving them back, that he has some.
But don't they have to qualify to a certain degree?
It's general government services.
Okay.
We accepted them under the revenue loss that we can use them for.
Okay.
I would just need a contract.
Adam, do you mind coming up real quick? I've been keeping a short list of projects that we could potentially use that funds for, like the exploding batteries, the PDE bike, things like that, that we could use those funds for. I have a question, the Zeb anticipating that he can fabricate a snow removal thing.
Yes.
How much, do you have any idea how much the materials for that might cost?
I don't have that information offhand. We were hoping to use with some of our paint recon funds from 24's budget to get that done. The biggest question right now is welder availability. We have a guy that helps us with these projects, but his scheduling is a little tricky.
I was thinking, is
so-
that something we could fund with?
He's got money.
It would be in the, five
That's why I asked.
to 6,000 probably range by the time.
Did you hear what he said? He says he's got paint money, so he's all set with that one.
Yep.
Cross that off the list.
Yep.
So, yeah, it would be, in that 5,000 to 7,000 range probably
Okay.
if
Got
that
it.
needs to happen. But yeah, I can make, we've got so much in the backlog of road work that if we wanted to put it towards curbing for West Union or something like that, that we could make it all go pretty quickly if you're looking for a
Okay.
place.
Speaking of that, telephone poles,
Yeah, I don't, it might be at the point where we have the attorney chime in with a letter.
have the assessor send him a letter, double charge him. We got 2 poles there.
There's some value, right?
Huh?
There's definitely some value to a second
Well,
pole.
they pay by the pole.
Yeah.
They want to pay extra to keep those poles there, but it's silly. I mean, you go down, you can't get through the sidewalk, and
We've got a chainsaw if we have to.
Oh, the
all
warranty came
right,
down.
so Adam, Derek, you know where we stand on those 2 projects,
Yes, absolutely.
okay?
Understood,
So
thank you.
we are set. Anybody have a problem with that scenario? Jim? No, Colin, you good with it?
I'm good.
Okay.
Yep.
Just clarify the Invest New Hampshire funds, it has to be, like, charged, right?
So the terminology, they say it has to be allocated by December 31st of 2024. Allocated means under legal binding contract. And then those funds must be spent by 2026, end of 2026.
Because my other idea was the HVAC study, because that's $20,000 to, he's talking about.
I think
Is
the
there a
hard
number
thing
on that?
is, at this point, is if you have a large project that has to go out to bid, we
No
have
time.
to, we don't have time necessarily
That's why I was
to.
asking what the regulation. or
And that's the
rules,
hard thing,
whatever.
is if it's a project that has to go out to bid, it's very difficult
Okay.
to do that.
So as it stands right now, our fallback is DPW. If,
Or it could be smaller projects. The e-bike was under $5,000. That's something your purchasing policy does not require 3 bids on.
And the exploding batteries.
Exploding
it wasn't that much.
No, but it was some, I mean, I'd rather get those replaced.
I understand, but let's,
How much has to be used?
40.
So we had about $40,000 that hadn't been, when I say allocated, that you have not identified. It hasn't been allocated in a legal sense under the US Treasury rules, but the board had identified how it would be spent.
And if either of the RFPs that are pending come back higher than anticipated, that 40,000 also gives a little cushion if there needs to be a, minor adjustment. If the project instead of 300 is 310, or instead of 200 is 225, it gives you some wiggle room to consider as well.
And if it's still there, that's something, on an e-bike or batteries, you can pull a trigger on that anytime. You know,
Right.
that's, you can run down the street and buy a bike, I mean, that's that easy.
Yep.
Unless you gotta have the one with the saddle to put the gun in it.
Tricked out.
Yeah, how much does it cost to outfit a bike?
Lights and
Less than
siren,
a
right?
hundred.
Lights and siren, the whole 9 yards. You get one of those, you put on the handlebars, hit the button, woo, woo. All right, anything else? Let's get back to this, okay. So, let's go back to where we started on the tax rate breakdown. Anybody have any issues with what we saw? I think for what I see is, I think we're set. I think when it comes to tax setting time, we'll see, I wanna see exactly what we have on the fund.
Well, this
This
is
is the
tax rate setting time.
All right, so we're gonna use,
So-
you wanna use funds now, you wanna allocate funds now.
No, our recommendation is that you have 12.01%. Your fund balance policy has a minimum of 12%. That 0.01%, what does that represent?
500,000.
500.
No.
6,000, sorry.
Oh, I thought you said it was,
I did, as I went to the back and I said, I missed a digit right there. So, $6,000, that's it. Yeah, it wouldn't
So-
even take a penny
Yeah,
off.
so our recommendation would, unfortunately, is do not use fund balance for this. We feel comfortable saying you could use fund balance on the 2025 warrant to offset the capital reserve fund.
okay,
Because by then you'd have 2024 fund balance moving forward.
so we're going from 1886 to 2044.
On the total across all, yes, on the town side, you're going from $6.50 to $6.89,
Right.
which is really the only rate that you have control over.
Do they have this sheet?
But when somebody says, what's the tax rate, they wanna know, they don't care about the 689 on the town side, well, what's the tax rate? Tax rate's gonna be $20.44.
Yeah. How much did it go up?
You want me to make that motion?
Go ahead.
I'll make the motion, the tax rate will be $20.44.
I would ask that you set the municipal tax rate at $6.89 as part of your motion. Again, you have no control over county, local education, or state
Let's just,
education.
yeah, just do the town side.
Town.
Does that include the proposed cuts that we did tonight?
Everything, so that's, I think, one of the things that's, we've been jumping back and forth between years. I think the discussion of the servers, I'm saying take that out of the 2025 budget and pay for it this year.
Got it.
But that really doesn't impact your 2024 tax rate. So I think that's the thing, we've been kind of bouncing between years as we've discussed some of these things.
So Mark, you made a motion for, what was it, 689 for the town side and 2044?
Correct.
Right, I'll second that.
Well, we can't do the 2044.
So-
That's fine, I just want to make
Get a
it
feel
clear
for
that
it.
you're only able to set the town portion.
Got
All
it.
right, so I'll
Got
make
it.
that motion so that it will be
Yeah.
$6.89.
And I'll second that.
Any more questions or discussion? Kelly? Good? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, motion passes. Okay, let's finish up with the budget stuff now.
You wanna go to this one?
Well, let's go with the most recent one.
Yep, which is this one we're got tonight.
But is that, this one doesn't have does this one have the proposed reductions in it?
It does not.
Okay,
It
so
does not.
you would have to do this one with the
The
proposed,
proposed reductions are outlined
as outlined in,
Page 6
outlined
of the
on page
presentation.
6 of the presentation.
right.
And again, those reductions would they would decrease the amount that you need to collect in taxes by $940,000, just over, 947,86.
Okay.
Because you'd be reducing projects and then you'd be moving one to unassigned fund balance.
So we're bringing it down to 28,301,010, is that accurate?
Yep.
So that's the motion you want to make? That the motion just made?
Yes,
Okay.
that's the money, that's the motion, the money I asked for earlier,
Right.
yes.
Second, Jim seconded it. Any further discussion, questions, Kelly?
No.
Good, you're pucking away over there, you're making it.
Good.
Everybody good?
Yeah.
So, the amendment, the motion was for 28,301,010.
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, motion passes. Anything else, Derek?
I guess my only question is, does the board wish to make additional cuts beyond that? Again, that, we estimate, with all known information at this time, that would be about a 13% increase, which we understand you're gonna send something and you want budget committee, and you're creating a budget that will help the budget committee develop their budget, because ultimately it is the budget committee's budget that goes to the town meeting.
But we also get, we also have the ability to make changes during the budget process. If the budget committee comes back and says we don't agree with that budget, or, can't come up with a budget, we can make changes to, say they come up with a budget that's $1 million difference. You have that ability to negotiate.
And we can.
We have before.
Make adjustments for that, right?
You can, I would just caution you, last year, the budget committee did not make any cuts to the proposed budget that went to them, and then that budget failed. So, as long as you're prepared to react to.
No, I think, who needs to be prepared to react is out here. I mean, because there we go again, we gave it a shot. If you want me to say, hey, I want to cut 10% out of this, and then we'd have to go, you know what I'm saying? And we'd have to go.
Can we lower our budget even though they don't, without negotiating against the,
No, once
we have, only when it's in the.
if they were to
negotiation?
disagree with the budget and come back with something different. We have done that in the past, years ago.
But we can't just say we would like to make some more cuts later if they don't.
There is
recommend it.
the ability on the DRA form, if the select board disagrees with the budget committee, to propose an alternative budget, but ultimately what appears on the ballot is the budget committee's budget.
I see, okay.
You don't feel comfortable?
I feel comfortable and I think we can.
You feel comfortable you've done the work?
I think the department heads have taken a good, and we can, look through it, and I think we can explain those. I would hesitate if this was the number going forward to the voters. So I think some additional work needs to be done there.
I will just say, my own personal experience, I've sat on the budget, we've done budget for a number of years. And I can say that if we take and push it back or push it forward, it's gonna bite us down the road where we may need more, and we'll have to raise the budget and taxes more.
That's the way it works.
I know, but, I mean, the old saying, kick the can down the road, we pay for it later on.
So, as budget committee starts going through the budget, and Kelly will be going through it with them page by page, and if there's something in there that you think we need to look at, well, Kelly can say, the select board's looked at this and thought we could cut this, or, you know what I'm saying? You have that ability.
Yeah.
But I will say, I think the department heads did a good job coming back with some adjustments.
Yep. So, anything else?
You do have one non-public item that we'd asked for you to act on this evening, so if you,
Mo?
I don't know if you want to take another public comment, and then.
Yeah, is there anybody here for public comment? Seeing none.
Motion to go into non-public, 91A:3,
B, hiring.
B hiring.
Second.
Seconded by, motion by Mark, seconded by Collis. Roll call.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
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 This was hiring.
Hiring, yes.